I'm going to prepare my stem with an 18 gauge wire. This is a heavy leaf, so you do need a thicker wire for your leaf. I'm going to take some pliers, these are just some heavy tweezers, and I'm going to bend about 1/4 of an inch, even less if it's possible, hook into this wire and have that ready to go. So I have this little hook ready to go. For gum paste, I'm using moss green. I have a light moss green, and then I have a darker moss green that I've also added a little juniper green to, and I'm mixing them together. Especially for leaves, I like to mix greens and have a bit of a variegated or almost marbled look to the gum paste. I feel like it adds a real life and texture to the leaves. So I'm going to work this in, and of course as I work it in, it'll become blended in color, and after a couple of leaves it's completely blended, but it's nice to sort of get that texture in the beginning. I'm going to roll out my gum paste initially across the large hole of the petal pad. So remembering that I keep one side that I moisten with just a little bit of vegetable shortening. This is my vegetable shortening side. The other side, which you can see is quite white, is for softening petals and edges of leaves. Okay, so I'm going to take my gum paste and I'm going to roll it into a bit of a cone shape, like this, just a loose cone, and press that in. That will help a lot of the gum paste to go into the hole, and that'll make it nice and easy to roll out. I'm going to roll this across the middle where the hole is to get it going. I'm not going to roll the entire leaf or entire paste across this because it won't be big enough for the leaf shape that I'm using, but I'm going to get it thinned, especially right here in the center where the hole is, and try to get it even, sort of an even square shape. From here, I'm going to remove the paste and flip it so that the knobby side is upwards. So you can see it's got a little bit of a knobby edge there to it. And then from here, I'm going to continue the roll with the 8-inch size guides rings here, rolling out away from that knob to thin the paste. And I want this to be large enough to take in my cutter. So I'm going to roll on all sides, turning and rolling as I go, till it gets big enough to support my cutter. So which cutter am I going to use? I'm actually going to use a water lily cutter because it's very similar to the lotus leaves. Lotus leaves and water lilies are completely different flowers, although they look so alike, but they are very different. So now I've got this rolled to about 1/8 of an inch. Here is my water lily cutter. You can see it looks a bit like a heart shape. So what you could do if you wanted is to do a heart shape and then round off the bottom edge. This heart shape is about 3.5 inches in length, or if you're doing centimeters, it's about 10 centimeters, and width-wise, it's about 9.5 centimeters, or about 3 3/4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put this in, and you see I had to roll quite a large shape, and what I want is this knobby piece to be sort of close to the indentation of the heart. I want that knobby piece to be right there, not in the center completely. I want it to be more, maybe about 1/2 inch away from the indentation of the heart shape. And I'm going to press down firmly And I like to pull the paste away here on these larger cutters. I just find it works better if I pull the paste away. This is green paste. Green paste tends to dry very quickly, so you do want to work rather quickly. I'll pull that little piece out. And from here, I'm going to vein my water lily shape, my lotus leaf. So to vein it, I'm going to use this nice detailed anthurium veiner that I've got. It's got a lot of nice deep ridges on it, but you could just as easily, and I have used, this is a strawberry and maple leaf veiner. That's quite nice. And this one is a chrysanthemum veiner, which is quite nice as well. You just want something that has like nice detailed veining on it. I'm going to use this one. Now the way that the veins work is that the veins start at this sort of center part and work their way outward. So you're going to be using this knobby part as your guide. So this knobby part will always be sort of my center area that I'm going to work out. So I'll press it here, and I'm going to use my cosmetic sponge, which I love to use, and press down, knobby side up. Then I'm going to rotate a little, so I'm going to go counterclockwise here, getting that vein from the center out. I'm pressing down quite firmly because the paste is an eighth of an inch thick. It can really take this going around, and it even creates a little bit of texture on the underside of the leaf here. We're mainly going to see the upward side of the leaf though, so going around and around and around. All around. Don't be distressed if in the center here there is a blank space, because now I'm going to take a pencil tool and I'm going to poke into that sort of blank space. So you can use a large pencil tool that looks something like this. I have this tool from the Wilton gumpaste tool kit set, and I really like using this little tool for this particular job. And where the knob is, I'm going to poke into the center. And I'm not going to poke all the way through. What I want to do is just open up that little indentation. So I'm swirling it around here, but I haven't cut all the way through. I need to leave some space there for my wire. I'm going to flip my pad over to the softening side, and I like to use the rounded end of the rolling pin to soften here. Mostly on the pad, a little on the edge of the paste. I'm pressing it down, and you can press quite firmly to create some nice ruffling there, because lotus leaves tend to look very pretty with all that ruffling going around. Don't worry if there's a little bit of feathering going on here. You can flick that off later when the leaf is dry. You could even use a little bit of a nail file to even up those edges. There we go. It's nice and curly. You can see it's already starting to dry. I'm going to take my prepared wire and dip it in a little bit of gum glue. Gum glue is made with about a 1/4 teaspoon of gum paste dissolved in some water. And I'm going to wipe that just on my wrist a little bit to get rid of the excess. And with this wider view, I'm going to show you how we attach this moistened stem. So I'll slide it inside that little hole there and pull it through. I'm not going to pull it all the way through, just until I can barely see the wire. You will pull the wire through a little bit more as you work with it. So I'm going to pull it through so that I can barely see that wire in there. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'll flip it over on the board so you can see better. And here where this knobby is, this is where I'm going to pinch and press and elongate just a little bit to thin out that knobby piece and make it attach better. It almost looks like a flagpole coming coming up there. And as you do this, the wire you can pull the wire through just a fraction bit more, but try not to pull it too far through. It's all right if it shows through just a little bit on the other side, because we're going to give it a heavy dusting when it's dry. Now to dry this, I like to use crumpled foil. I'm going to crumple up the foil. I'm actually going to make a little bit of a mound there in the center. Yep, like that. I'm just going to set my leaf in it and kind of curl it around. Lotus leaves are curled up towards the sun. They grow up towards the sun. It's a big part of it. So, and you can even add in some little curls if you want to. Now if you find that this tends to sway over, it usually does it if you've been playing around with it. Once you leave it alone, it'll stand up straight and hold its straightness there. I would set this off to the side and let it dry completely. So here's my dried leaf that I've got on my 18 gauge wire, and I'm going to use my lime green to color the leaf. I've still got my brush here, my fat little flat brush for coloring, and I'm going to use this lime green again. So to intensify the color again, I'm going to start at the edge of the petals. And I like to sort of, you can see where the veining is from where the color wasn't totally mixed in. This is going to blend nicely once I add the color too. But I'm going to find little divots, little dips in the leaves. There's one right there. And I'm going to really blast in the color in those little divots. And that'll give it a nice deeper shading. So I'm going to go all the way around and blast in those little divots there. Make it a little bit darker. So go all the way around the leaf. Now, of course, this is fairly sturdy but still breakable, so you want to be gentle. Use a brush with bristles that aren't too stiff, and that way you won't risk breaking your piece. I like to make extras on the just chance that something happens. So now I'm going to go back, and with a lighter brush stroke and using some of the excess dust that's on there and a little bit that's fallen off onto my paper toweling, I'm just going to add more color in here. This is again the lime green color. So this is the underside of the leaf. Underside of the leaf. I like to start on the other underside of the leaf, especially if it's a new color that I'm not real comfortable with, or not sure that this is actually the color I want to put all over the place, and that way I can practice a little bit on the underside just to see what it looks like, and then move to the upper side and finish off there. So let me bend this slightly upward so that you can get a good look at it. So there's those divots again. I'm going to go in here with my brush, give those divots a good blast of color. You could use a darker green if you wanted to. I want the focus to mainly be on the flower and the leaf to be more of a backdrop or a canvas for my lotus. So I'm not going crazy on the color for this. And then I'll brush it in. And you can see where the veining takes in a little bit more color, gives it a little accentuation, and I'm still using that brush in towards the outer edge towards the center as I go in here. Now for the center, remember this was where we had our wire inserted. I'm going to give it a real blast of color and then brush outward. Covered all over. Then I'm going to take my yellow brush, go back to my canary yellow. Again, you could use daffodil yellow or any bright yellow. And here I'm just going to accentuate just a few little areas where I want to highlight. So right in there I'm just going to add a little bit of a brush of yellow. Right there looks like that might be a nice place to brush in yellow. But this will be all up to you, and this is where you can really make your mark on your flowers, is with the shading and the tinting. Just adding in a little bit of color here and there. And see how that just sort of brightens it up just a little bit. It's not as though you'll look at that and say, oh, look at that yellow on there. It's more like you'll see the highlight of color. I'll take a little bit on the back, but not much, because this is going to be the underside. We're really not going to see this a whole lot, but just in case you have a nosy friend who likes to look underneath things, they'll get something to look at here. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to fold over my paper towel to where it's in a cleanish area, because when I use my little air horn here, I don't want to blow the dust that's on the paper towel around. That would just end up in my lap. So I'm going to blow onto a clean sheet of paper toweling just to get off that excess. And there we have the leaf. And I'm going to take my leaf over here that's also on an 18 gauge wire, set it upside this, take a piece of floral tape, and I've got an additional 2 18 gauge wires. These are actually one wire that I cut in half. And I'm going to add this onto the stem here. Add this right here at the base of the stem here. Not so much for strength, because this 18 gauge wire has a lot of strength to it, but more for a little wire bulking. I'm going to take my floral tape, stretch it to release the glue, and then, hoping you can see this, I'm going to wrap the wire, the floral tape around the wire, and I'm going to overlap, let me do that again. I'm going to overlap the wire, and I'm also going to overlap the little base that I made up here. So I'm going to kind of overlap that to tie that into the stem. And then I'm going to angle it down and tape all the way down the stem. Now this too, I'm not angling too deeply. Not angling it too deeply. I'm keeping it more of a softer angle rather than a deeper angle, because I want the tape to overlap quite a bit and make it even bulkier. And I'm going to tape down the length of the additional 2 wires that I attached. So you can see it's attached there. And then, because I want to add even more bulk, let me pop that. He's best stored this way. I'm going to get another length of tape. Release the glue again. I'm just going to go back over it one more time. Angling it just a little bit, and this will create even more bulk. There is plastic tubing that you can buy that will create a bulkiness, but I find that really artificial looking. Even more artificial looking than floral tape. At least with the floral tape, you're able to blend the color using petal dust, because the glue from the floral tape tends to pick up the petal dust nicely. It's just, let me see if I can get this a little bit closer. There. You can see where it's blended in quite nicely now. And while I've got you up close, let me get some green and just blend that in. So now it really does look quite like it's a part of the whole leaf. Okay, coming back out now. Oh, there we go. So there we have it. Next step is to steam my flower and my leaf, and then we'll be done.